Hi, I'm Kristen Amdahl, and welcome back to my studio. Today I'm going to show you how to make this really beautiful side-to-side knit crescent lace shawlette. It's work side to side, which means we're going to start here on this skinny side, and we're going to work out as we increase in the garter stitch section through to the middle, work even for a little bit, and then decrease back down to the other skinny side of the crescent shape. All the while, we're also going to be working this really beautiful scalloped lace border, which is done on one side of the stitch marker, and the garter stitch section is done on the other side of the stitch marker. So what that means is the 14-row repeat of the lace scallop edge is going to be exactly the same for the entire shawlette. The only thing that's going to change is the stitch count of increasing on one side, working even in the center, and decreasing on the other side in the garter stitch section. So it really couldn't be much easier conceptually. In the first part of this video, I'm going to show you how to work the 14-row repeat in the increase section. Then in the second part of the video, I'm going to show you how to work the 14-row repeat in the even section. And then in the third part of the video, I'm going to show you how to work the 14-row repeat in the decrease section. You're going to need one set of knitting needles, size US 3, 3.25 millimeter, one stitch marker, and one ball of Be So Fine yarn, which is 100% bamboo, fingering weight, comes 650 yards per 4-ounce hank. You'll only need one ball to make this beautiful shawl that just drapes and has incredible sheen. You can wear it in a number of ways. You can start by just wrapping it around and a couple of times around your neck like that. So it's actually a beautiful scarf that features that really lovely scalloped edge. Or you could even wear it over your shoulders and tie it in the front like that. Really shows off that scalloped edge. Let's get started. We're going to cast on 7 stitches, place our marker, and cast on 7 more stitches for a total of 14. So we start with a slip knot, which counts as our first stitch, cast on 6 more, place our marker, and cast on 7 more stitches. Okay, so at the end of row 1, you should have 14 stitches. For row 2, we're going to knit 3, yarn over, knit 4, slip our marker, and knit 7. So we'll start with knit 3, yarn over, knit 4, slip our marker, and then knit 7. Row 3, we're going to knit 7, slip marker, and then knit 8. Row 4, we're going to knit 3, yarn over, knit 5, slip marker, and knit 9. Knit 7. Row 5, we're going to knit 7, row 5, we're going to knit 7, slip marker, and knit 9. Row 6, we're going to knit 3, yarn over, knit 6, slip marker, and knit 7. Row 7, we're going to knit 7, slip marker, and knit 10. Row 8, we're going to knit 3, yarn over, knit 7, slip marker, and knit 7. Row 9, we're going to knit 7, slip marker, and knit 11. Row 10, we're going to make a bobble. A bobble, we're going to knit and purl and knit and purl and knit. That's a total of 5 stitches we made into that first stitch before we pull it off our needle. We're going to turn our work And now knit all 5 of those stitches. Turn our work and work those 5 stitches only. Turn our work and knit those 5 stitches only. Turn our work and knit all 5 of those stitches together. Knit 3, yarn over, knit 7, slip marker, knit 7. Row 11, we're going to knit 7, slip marker, knit 10, and knit the last 2 stitches together. Row 12 begins with bind off 5 stitches, so we're going to knit 2 stitches to bind off 1, knit another one to bind off 2, knit another one to bind off 3, knit another one to bind off 4, and knit another one to bind off 5. Then it's knit 6, slip marker. This counts as our first knit stitch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, slip marker, and knit 7. Row 13, knit 7, slip marker, knit 6. Row 14, knit 3, yarn over, knit 3, slip marker, and knit 7. First 14 rows are complete, and our first repeat of 14 rows is complete. Row 15 begins with knit 7, yarn over twice, slip the stitch marker, and knit 7. Row 16 begins with knit 3, yarn over, knit 4, slip marker, then into that double yarn over, we're going to drop one of the loops, and we're now going to work a knit, purl, and knit all into that same loop. So knit, purl, and knit. We're creating 3 stitches from that yarn over. And then knit 7. Row 17 begins with knit 10, slip marker, and knit 8. Row 18 begins with a knit 3, yarn over, knit 5, slip marker, and knit 10. Row 19 begins with knit 10, slip marker, and knit 9. Row 20 begins with knit 3, yarn over, knit 6, slip your marker, and knit 10. Begins with knit 10, slip marker, and knit 10. Row 22 begins with a knit 3, yarn over, knit 7, slip marker, and knit 10. Row 23 begins with a knit 10, slip marker, and knit 11. Row 24 begins with making a bobble. We're going to knit, purl, and knit all into this first stitch before dropping it off the needle. Knit, purl, knit, purl, and knit. Then we can slide the stitch off of our left hand needle, turn our work, and knit into all 5 of those stitches. Turn your work and knit into those 5 stitches only. Turn your work, knit into those 5 stitches, turn your work, and knit all 5 of those stitches together. Knit 3, yarn over, knit 7, slip marker, and knit 10. That's what the end of row 24 should look like. Row 25 begins with knit 10, slip the marker, knit 10, and knit 2 together. That's what the end of row 25 should look like. Row 26 begins with bind off 5 stitches. So we're going to knit 2 stitches to bind off 1, knit another stitch to bind off 2, knit another stitch to bind off 3, knit another stitch to bind off 4, and knit another stitch to bind off 5. Then we're to knit 6 and slip the marker. That counts as our first knit stitch. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Slip the marker and knit 10. This is what the end of row 26 should look like. Row 27 starts with knit 10, slip the marker, knit 6, and row 28 begins with a knit 3, yarn over, knit 3, slip marker, and knit 10. This is what your work should look like at the end of row 28 or the end of the second repeat. Okay, on row 1 of the even section, you're going to knit across to the stitch marker until you're 3 stitches before the stitch marker. So no matter how many stitches you have on your needles at this point, however wide you decided to make the shawl, you're going to knit across until you're 3 stitches before the stitch marker. You're going to knit all 3 of them together. Double yarn over, slip the marker, and knit 7. Row 2 is to knit 3, yarn over, knit 4, slip the marker. Now in that double yarn over from the previous row, we're going to knit and purl into it, dropping the second loop of that yarn over off the needle. So we have that giant yarn over with 1 knit and 1 purl into the yarn over, so we've created 2 stitches from it, and then knit to the end of the row. Row 3 is to knit to the stitch marker, slip the marker, and knit 8. For row 4, we're going to knit 3, yarn over, knit 5, slip the marker, and knit to end. Row 5, we're going to knit to the stitch marker, slip the marker, and knit 9. Row 6, we're going to knit 3, yarn over, knit 6, slip the marker, and knit to the end. Row 7, we're going to knit to the marker, slip the marker, knit 10. Row 8, we're going to knit 3, yarn over, knit 7, slip the marker, and knit to the end. For row 9, we're going to knit to the marker, slip the marker, knit 11. Row 10 begins with a bobble. We're going to knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, all into this first stitch before dropping it off the left-hand needle. Turn our work, knit all 5 of those stitches. Turn our work, knit 5, turn our work, knit 5, turn our work, knit all 5 of those stitches together, knit 3, yarn over, knit 7, slip the marker, and knit to the end of the row. Row 11 begins with knit to the marker. Slip the marker, knit 10, and knit 2 together. Row 12 begins with bind off 5 stitches. We're going to knit 2 stitches to bind off 1, knit another one to bind off 2, knit another one to bind off 3, knit another one to bind off 4, knit another one to bind off 5. Now we knit 6, and the stitch on this needle counts as the first knit stitch, so 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Slip the marker and knit to the end of the row. Row 13 begins with knit to the marker, slip the marker, knit 6, turn your work. Row 14 begins with knit 3, yarn over, knit 3, slip the marker, and knit to the end of the row. And that completes the 14-row repeat of the even section of the shawl. Notice how the eyelet for the even section looks very much like the eyelet for the increase section. Even though they're worked in different ways, they end up looking very similar. And I'll show you again on the finished shawl. You can see we have the eyelets worked one way for the increase section, a second way for the even section, and now in the third part of the video I'm going to show you how to work the decrease section, and you'll see that the eyelets look very similar still. You will have a different number of stitches on your garter stitch side when you start the decrease section, but you're going to be working the same exact way as I'm going to show you in this smaller version for the sample size for the demo. On this side of the stitch marker, the edging will be absolutely identical on the increase section, the even section, and the decrease section. It's a 14-row repeat of this lace edging. So let's get started. Row 1 of the decrease section. Row 1 of the decrease section begins with knit to 3 stitches before the stitch marker. Okay, we're 3 stitches before our stitch marker now. We're going to bind off 3 stitches. Knit 2 to bind off the first one. Knit another stitch to bind off 2. We're going to move our stitch marker for a second. Knit 1 more to bind off 3. But remember, the stitch that remains on our needle is actually the beginning of the next section. So we're going to slip the needle back to this side, insert the stitch marker back into place, And now that counts as the first stitch of this section, and on this section of row 1 is to knit 7. Okay, row 2 of the decrease section is to knit 3, yarn over, knit 4, slip the marker, and knit to the end. Row 3 is to knit to the marker, slip the marker, and knit 8. Row 4 is to knit 3, yarn over, knit 5, slip the marker, and knit to the end. Row 5 is to knit to the marker, slip the marker, and knit 9. Row 6 is knit 3, yarn over, knit 6, slip marker, and knit to the end. Row 7 is to knit to the marker, slip the marker, and knit 10. Row 8 is to knit 3, yarn over, knit 7, slip the marker, and knit to the end. Row 9 is to knit to the marker, slip the marker, knit 11. Row 10 begins with making a bobble. We're going to knit, purl, and knit all into that first stitch before sliding it off the needle. Turn our work, knit all 5 of those stitches, turn our work, knit those 5 stitches again, turn our work, knit those 5 stitches again, turn our work, and now knit those 5 stitches together. Knit the next 3 stitches, yarn over, knit 7, slip the marker, and knit to the end of the row. Row 11 begins with knit to the marker, slip the marker, knit 10, and knit the last 2 stitches together. Row 12 begins with bind off 5 stitches. We're going to knit 2 to bind off the first one, knit another stitch to bind off 2, knit another stitch to bind off 3, knit another stitch to bind off 4, and knit another stitch to bind off 5. This stitch is now the first knit stitch for the next section, and in the next section is to knit 6. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Slip the marker and knit to the end of the row. Row 13 begins with knit to the marker, slip the marker, knit 6. And row 14 begins with knit 3, yarn over, knit 3, slip the marker, and knit to the end. And that completes the 14 rows of our decrease section of this shawlette. And you can see we have, make it a little more pronounced here. Once it's blocked, the eyelets will be more pronounced on the decrease section. So I'm just going to stick my finger in there so you can see it now. But in the blocking, you'll see it it's very much like the increase eyelet, the working even eyelet, and then the decrease eyelet. So now we've shown you how to increase, work even, and decrease in the garter stitch section, while all the while working our 14 row repeat for this beautiful lace edging. Make sure you go to my website to download the free pattern. You can also find a link to order Be So Fine yarn. You'll only need one ball to make this beautiful project. This is colorway Harbor Fog. This is colorway Lilac Memories, and the project was worked in colorway $1 Million Red. If you have any questions about this project, please leave me a question in the comments, and please subscribe to my channel for more videos.